Pope Francis' letter to the priests of the Diocese of Rome. Dear brothers priests, I would like to reach out to you with the thought of accompaniment and friendship, which I hope will sustain you as you carry out your ministry with its load of joys and labors, hopes and disappointments. We need to exchange glances full of care and compassion, learning from Christ who looked at the apostles this way, not demanding from them a schedule dictated by the criterion of efficiency, but offering care and refreshment. Thus, when the apostles returned from their mission, enthusiastic but tired, the Master said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a lonely place and rest a while." Mark 6:31. I think of you at this time at which there can be, along with the summer activities, also a little rest after the pastoral labors of the past month. And first of all, I would like to reiterate my thanks. Thank you for your witness and for your service. Thank you for your hidden good way, for the hidden good you do, and for the forgiveness and consolation that you bestow in God's name. Thank you for your ministry, which is often carried out with great effort, with little recognition, and is not always understood. Besides, our priestly ministry is not measured by pastoral successes. The Lord himself had fewer and fewer of them as time went by. At the heart of our life is not even the frenzy of activity, but remaining in the Lord to bear fruit. John 15. He is our refreshment. Matthew 11, verse 28 and 29. And the tenderness that comforts us springs from his mercy, from welcoming the magis of his grace, which allows us to go ahead in our apostolic work, to bear failures and setbacks, to rejoice with simplicity of heart, to be meek and patient, to always start again and begin again, to reach out to others. Indeed, our necessary recharging moments occur not only when we rest physically and spiritually, but also when we open ourselves to brotherly encounter between ourselves. Fraternity comforts, it offers spaces for inner freedom and prevents us from feeling alone in the face of the challenges of the ministry. It is with this spirit that I write to you. I feel I am journeying with you, and I would like to make you feel that I am close to you in joys and sorrows, in plans and hardships, in bitterness and in pastoral consolations. Above all, I share with you the desire for communion, affective and effective, which I offer while I offer my daily prayer that this, our Mother Church of Rome, called to preside in charity, may cultivate the precious gift of communion, first and foremost in herself, making it germinate in the various realities and sensibilities of which she is composed. May the Church of Rome be for everyone an example of compassion and hope, with her pastors always, truly always, ready and willing to extend God's forgiveness as channels of mercy that quench the thirst of today's humanity. And now, dear brothers, I wonder, in this time of ours, what does the Lord ask of us? Where are we led by the Spirit that has anointed us and sent us as apostles of the gospel? In prayer, this comes back to me, that God asks us to go all the way in the fight against spiritual worldliness. Father Henri de Lubac, in a few pages of a text that I invite you to read, define spiritual worldliness as the greatest danger for the church. For us, who are the church, the most perfidious temptation, the one that always resurfaces insidiously when the others are vanquished. And he added words that seemed to me to hit the nail on the head. If this spiritual worldliness were to invade the church and work to corrupt it by undermining its very principle, it would be infinitely more disastrous than any simply moral worldliness. There are things I have recalled on other occasions, but I would like to reiterate them, considering them a priority. Spiritual worldliness, in fact, is dangerous because it is a way of life that reduces spirituality to an appearance. It leads us to be traders of the Spirit, men clothed in sacred forms that in reality continue to think and act according to the fashions of the world. This happens when we allow ourselves to be fascinated by the seductions of the ephemeral, by mediocrity and habit, by the temptations of power and social influence, and again by vain glory and narcissism, by doctrinal intransigence and liturgical aestheticism, forms and ways in which worldliness hides behind the appearance of piety and even love for the church, but in reality consists in seeking not the Lord's glory, but human glory and personal well-being. How can we fail to recognize in all this the updated version of that hypocritical formalism which Jesus saw in certain religious authorities of the time, and which in the course of his public life made him suffer perhaps more than anything else? Spiritual worldliness is a gentle temptation, and for this reason even more insidious. Indeed, it seeps in, well aware of how to hide behind good appearances, even within religious motivations, and even if we recognize it and banish it from us, sooner or later it presents itself again, disguised in a different fashion. As Jesus says in the Gospel, when the unclean spirit has gone out of a man, he passes through waterless places seeking rest. And finding none, he says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when he comes, he finds it swept and put in order. Then he goes and brings 7 other spirits, more evil than himself, and they enter and dwell there. And the last state of that man becomes worse than the first. Luke chapter 11, verse 24 to 26. We need inner vigilance to safeguard our minds and hearts, to feed in us the purifying flame of the Spirit, because worldly temptations return and knock politely. They are elegant demons. They enter smoothly without our ever being conscious of them. However, I would like to dwell on an aspect of this worldliness. When it enters the heart of pastors, it takes on a specific form, that of clericalism. Forgive me for repeating it, but as priests I think you understand me, because you too share what you believe in a heartful way, in accordance with that good typically Romanesque trait, whereby sincerity of the lips comes from the heart and has the flavor of the heart. And I, as an elderly man, and from the heart, want to tell you that it worries me when we lapse into forms of clericalism, when perhaps, without realizing it, we let people see that we are superior, privileged, placed above, and therefore separated from the rest of God's holy people. As a good priest once wrote to me, clericalism is a symptom of a priestly and lay life tempted to live out the role and not the real bond with God and brethren. In short, it denotes a disease that causes us to lose the memory of the baptism we have received, leaving in the background our belonging to the same people, and leading us to live authority in the various forms of power, without realizing the duplicity, without humility, but with detached and haughty attitudes. To free ourselves from this temptation, it is good for us to listen to what the prophet Ezekiel says to the shepherds. You eat the fat, you clothe yourselves with the wool, you slaughter the fatlings, but you do not feed the sheep. The weak you have not strengthened, the sick you have not healed, the crippled you have not bound up, the strayed you have not brought back, the lost you have not sought, and with force and harshness you have ruled them. Chapter 34, verse 3-4. It speaks of fat and wool, that which nourishes and warms. The risk that the word places before us is therefore that of nourishing ourselves and our own interests, providing ourselves with a comfortable life.